I want to ask some searching questions about your lay ministry. Now, we being disciples of Messiah, we are all to be priests and kings in certain ways, at least in a spiritual sense. And I want to ask you some questions about, in that respect, your ministry, if I could. I would like to have some answers online here. And what I was thinking is maybe I could ask a question and we could just go around and you tell us what you think about it without uncovering real personal information. I've got this darn cat out here. The cat's fallen in love with me. It's always wanting to sit on my foot, whatever that means. All right. How should we do that? Would you all be willing to be a part of that?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Okay. If you want to pass, just pass. Let's take it in order. I can do one too. And Holsapple's Galaxy A02S. All right. So let's start with Galaxy. Why are you interested in being a lay minister, especially when you have a financially responsible job of some kind? What brings you to an interest in ministry? Greg, what do you say to that right off the top of your head?
To help, every soul matters, to help as much I can, whatever venue or, whether it's down the street or home fellowship or wherever, just try to minister to someone the best I can, to give them the knowledge or to give them the love that they need, because there's so many out there that are hurting and been hurt.
Oh, I see. So you're really more interested in caring for souls than you are in doing good deeds. Which one of those is foremost? Care of souls or good deed doing? Or are they pretty much equal?
Souls first, souls and making sure people are right, but then the helping them out.
All right, let me ask you one more then.
Right.
You're willing to do whatever needs to be done, right?
Yes.
I would like to ask you some questions or particular examples and see what you say, but we'll leave that. Now, do you feel you are hardwired in some way to doing this? And if so, how does that hard wiring, or this says God-given hard wiring, and how does it contribute to your strengths and weaknesses? It's a hard question. Do you feel you're hardwired to do it?
Yes. A lot of times, especially even in the military, we'd be in the same place together in the desert or, in a hard place, and I'd find people would come to me with their different problems, different things that was going on with them.
Mm-hmm.
And at first it was kind of like, I'm right here with you. I mean, we're having the same problems, but I realized that I do feel like that's a hardwired. It's something that he made me to do. And then that's where I got a lot of heart for even that setting, because there's so much going on in the world, so much heartache, so much things, so many people doing each other wrong, that trying to a lot of times just listening and caring and being there means 95% of it for most people. That helps more.
You hit the nail right on the head there. Just being there, just listening.
Right.
Thank you. Let's go on to the next one. And Professor Smith. Oh, this is a good one for you. how would your, I'm sorry, how would your friends or your spouse describe you as a minister? How have they affirmed you? Have they identified any blind spots? Pick any of those.
Yeah, you know, in the different assemblies and the groups of people that I've ministered in, yeah, eventually there's constructive criticism, and I've used that constructive criticism to try to improve. And at first, it was a prickly experience. It was, you know, but over time, it began to become dispassionate about it.
Mhm.
You know, from things that you know, oh, it's you know, complaints about it's too long, or it's too you know, going down the rabbit trail too much, you know, different kinds of things, you know, and over time, I also learned that one of the things is you cannot push beyond. Excuse me. You can't push beyond. How can I put this?
Limits, boundaries.
Yeah, the limits of what people are willing to do. If you push too hard, the whole thing gets just, you know. And I've had to make peace with myself about that. That people are people. And so, yeah, I've had a lot of constructive criticism. As far as positive stuff, I mean, yeah, they say, oh, you're knowledgeable, you know, engaging to listen to, you know, stuff like that, that I've gotten back from people.
All right, let me break in and ask you a more specific question then. What are your two greatest weaknesses? I think you named a couple there.
Two greatest, you mean people who would, you know, give a positive, what are you talking about exactly?
What are your, this Amber Alert's going off here. What are your two greatest weaknesses, especially those that perhaps.
Oh, weaknesses. Okay. I thought you said witnesses, and okay, weaknesses.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have a bit of I have less of a toleration for. I've had to learn to build up a toleration for people. I am not by nature someone that just instantly gets into a crowd and goes along to get along. I'm just not that way. I'm kind of a hermit, to be honest with you. I have a heck of a hard enough time just getting somebody to go to the range with me, let alone going to do a ministry endeavor. Okay, so you know, and I sometimes and the second one is this: I miss social cues. I miss social cues big time. And I've had to, you know, people, you know, especially down in the South, I've gotten a lot better at it. But when I got down here in the South, I was like a bull in a china shop.
You're from Michigan?
Yeah. Okay. And that's just how everybody is in Michigan. And, you know, pretty soon I caught on. They have a very kind way. A lot of times it's anecdotes, the stories they tell. Pretty soon I figured out they're telling a story because they don't like something I've said or done. They just don't want to hurt my feelings, but they still want to hurt my feelings. They just want me to change. But they just don't want to do it in a northern way.
What a conclusion. Yeah, same thing with me when I moved down south to pastoral appointment in a very rural area. It was like a different world. We kind of spoke the same language, but that was about it. There were great stories there, and half of the stories were to try to correct things they perceived were wrong with me. I think that's just the way they do. Okay, next we've got Craig Lane. I'm glad that you're here. And I'd be interested in knowing, how do you cope with stress? Are you a stressed out person? How do you handle that stress or deal with it? Denial?
Certainly not denial and not avoidance. The avoidance of a condition or a problem does not equivalent to one's handling of it. So
What do you do to cope with it?
the way I start my day has a lot to do with how my day goes. So if I start my day right, it'll be a lot more manageable throughout the day. Anxiety, stress, all those things that are maybe even semi-subconscious at times. Psalm 119, especially verses like 29 through 38, I've been reading for quite a while. Just about every morning, I'll start with that. Sorry about that, and start with a bunch of other things. And so reading the Psalms in the morning is a really big one for me.
Do you have particular goals? I'm thinking about short-term goals, say in the next 1 to 5 years, or not? If so,
Yeah.
maybe give me one of them.
I would like to be in use of a bigger piece of property, not necessarily ownership, but I would like to be able to produce more things and maybe even actually provide rent and the things that we need by growing vegetables and maybe some medicine for people and other things along those lines, ginger and turmeric and really all those things. I'd like to be in a better
Consider those
situation.
things to be parts of your ministry?
Yeah, absolutely. Especially the medicinal things, the herbs and the ginger and things. The little bit of garden that I have in the backyard, it really is quite remarkable. He just kind of does it, and using grow bags on a piece where they had scraped every bit of topsoil right off of the property when they put in the double wide here. So there's not really even weeds that grow in the backyard. It's pretty much hard pan. So I had to bring in every bit of soil. So good, healthy soil, really good, healthy soils where a lot of good health starts. So like ginger and everything from the store is really good, but some of the I have friends that live in Louisiana, or they have a family farm in Louisiana, and they planted a bunch of turmeric, and when they go down like twice a year, they bring back a bunch of turmeric with them, and it's just so much better. I'm sure ginger and herbs like parsley and all of it is just so much better when they're grown with some love and some intent and care. And it's just they have the kids and they're learning, and I really have to, and I keep it a very practical situation, so I'm not spending a bunch of money and expensive additives or fancy whatever it is. It's pretty down to earth, and so that would be I would consider that to be a substantial part of who I am, for sure.
And getting the most from the least. That's great. Nothing like the real thing.
Yeah.
Okay, next we've got Kenneth. Kenneth, how do you stay organized? You got a business to run. You got an active ministry. I noticed that I had a couple of your videos pop up on my page on YouTube. So you've got a full-time job, a responsibility at work, and then you also are feeling hardwired. How do you stay organized? Tell us about a typical week, for instance.
It's tough. I go through the day just taking things as they come a lot. I have to keep notes whether I keep them on my phone or write them down.
Mhm.
And but mostly I just take everything as it comes. When we do ministry, do that. When it's work related, I just do that. As far as planning, I'm not a real good planner. I guess that's what I mean by take it as it comes.
Mhm.
In other words, when it gets in front of me, I deal with it and move forward with it.
I think for some people that can be much less stressful than the planning
is.
out. However, people have different styles, don't you think?
Yeah, because if I sit and think about having to do something, it gets in my head. It gets, I get nervous.
Oh, yeah.
So like,
And you have to
just
deal with
wait.
stress.
Yeah.
So let me ask you one more question here. What particular time has your ministry been most impactful, or you might say successful? You can brag a little bit. I know you've had some good successes.
I would say there again, just letting it happen. And when a situation presents itself, then I just move forward with it.
Well, tell me a specific incident. I can think of some, like I was extremely proud of you when you went and did that wedding. Right off
Yeah.
the bat, you did that wedding and you did not feel confident about it, but you brought it off so well. And the first time that you actually forced yourself to preach in front of millions of people, I think those were really successful. But of course, I don't know your full history or what you do.
Well, and I hate to keep going back to this, but both of those situations was just put in front of me, and I took them and went with it. I do talk to a lot of people at work. I get asked a lot of questions. I think not necessarily the work part, but when ministry is brought into it, I think I do a lot better just going with it.
Mhm.
If that makes any sense.
Taking the pathway of least resistance.
Right. Like now you're asking me questions and I'm struggling a little bit, but just talking, if somebody just walks up and starts a conversation, it just like it comes natural.
Yeah.
Um,
In your business, it has to be that way.
yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Marcelle, you're next if you'd like to participate. I want to ask you the same question. When has your ministry been most impactful and successful? And maybe I might even be able to guess that, but please go ahead if you will.
I don't know. I think in just in different friendships and relationships, and I tend to probably have the most impact once I've gotten to know someone, and just in times of just doing life together or having conversation. I feel like I'm pretty transparent without being, oversharing too much about who I am. I don't think that that I come across as I don't know,
As
as
naughty
being
Marcelle?
as trying to be some spiritual giant. I'm just authentic with the struggles that I have and the questions that I have, and also the the sacred moments of when I felt like I've encountered the divine and felt like I'm grown maybe in a certain area. I share that with people, and I think that I don't know, that just seems probably to be the most impactful versus any kind of formal, any kind of formal ministry. I don't think that that's something that I've really done much of that.
Well, having observed you all these years, I thought certainly you would say the fact that you homeschooled 4 children to adulthood and college, and that they all turned out good. That's pretty hard to accomplish. That's big, because that goes
Yeah.
on year after year after year.
I don't know if people count that as I feel like everybody here does that probably with as far as, raising kids. I don't know if that counts as
For better or worse.
as formal ministry. It's part of keeping the Shema.
And what ministry are you most passionate about? Some
Like,
people on their regular job, they see that as a ministry. Maybe you do.
yeah, I do now. I mean, I guess I probably, I don't know, when you're a teacher and you're influencing lives, I do see that as ministry, even though I can't, in the setting that I'm in, can't overtly
Yeah.
preach the gospel.
And
But
is that what you're most passionate about, do you think?
most passionate about, like, as far as ministry goes?
Yeah. What do you really like to do?
I really like to, I just like to make a difference in people's lives. And I guess throughout my life, it's just been whatever setting that I've been in. I want to, I mean, it really sounds cliche, but I really do want to point them to the Father and have them, question and start to wonder about who they are and why they were created and what's their place. And, as a teenager, my stepsister had that influence on me. I just watched her and her pursuing of spiritual matters. And, that made me think, okay, well, what about me? So I think that that's something that maybe, I don't know. I guess everybody's different in what they think, but yeah, I want people to see that there's just, especially my children, that there's more to life than just the day-to-day routine and the pursuing of earthly things. I want them to walk through everything in their lives closely connected to the Master. And as far as, I don't know, I've done a lot of preaching to them and teaching, and I'm at the stage now where I just ask the Father to help me just live it, to just live it.
Well, consistency in life is about the best you can do when your children are gone, it seems to me. Consistency in life. All right. Thank you, Marcelle. I want to go back to Greg Holsapple. I like to say that word, don't you? Holsapple. How do you use technology and or social media personally for your particular ministry?
Trying to use Facebook Live and YouTube a lot, really. Facebook Live, I try to, like, every Sabbath around 12, 1 o'clock. And then I usually try to make the backgrounds and the different things like that, or not make them, but get them so it looks more professional and more just more professional, so people like to look at it and it stands out a little bit more, and try to stay on top of the technology as much as I can, even though I'm not very proficient in it. But I try to different cameras and different things, trying to make them work and make everything look better as I can.
You have a YouTube channel, I suppose.
Yes.
Oh, tell us what it is. I never
It-
see you popping up on my screen.
It's just Gregory Holsapple.
Okay. It's
And
your
I got
name? Okay.
Yes.
Very good. Now we know. I have to go out and click the subscribe there. Craig Smith, this is a good one for you. I think you can handle this question. Let me see if I can find it again. Ah, yeah. Can you share with us your current mission and vision, especially as it pertains to the Yahad? The mission and the vision of the organization we're persevering to bring to success.
Yeah. I've been thinking about it for a while now.
You're really good at this.
I'd like to replicate what is being done for the Sabbath service, liturgy, prayer, all of the elements that go into the Sabbath service. I'd like to replicate that to other Yahads to assist them in getting the infrastructure in place. Actually, I couldn't do that myself. That would be something we'd have to rely on some of the work you've done too. But to replicate that, to get other services and other kinds of outreaches going, so that people that might not be able to make it on this day could make it to a service another time, or even get it to where it's at minimum what the churches are doing. Of course, they do their thing on Sunday. They got the morning thing and they got the evening thing if they're functioning, and they got the Wednesday thing if they're functioning properly with the different elements. But I'd like to see that in the Yahad. I'd like to see it expanded out.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to see a standardized scripture down the road. I don't know if that'll ever be a reality or not, but
That would be good. I have a sheet that has the Jewish synagogue and the Christian church liturgy. They're both exactly the same with different terminology that goes back to ancient times. I'll send over to you if you don't have it already. You can use that as a pattern for whatever acts of worship you decide to put in there. Very good. I'll ask you one more question. Besides the Bible and Yeshua HaMashiach and Abe Lincoln, what books and or people have most influenced you in life and ministry?
books or people?
Books and or people.
Probably if I were to say books, what made the greatest impact, and some of it was negative, but out of that negativity came an awareness of things that I didn't have. But the books, it's written by it's Chick Publishing is the publishing company, and it's let's see here.
Those little cartoons, comics.
No. It's this was Rebecca Brown, MD, and I don't recommend everybody read those, but I read them because you'll have nightmares if you do. But
Yeah, Rebecca Brown. I know that.
the deep occult and the spiritual realities, and some of it is at first I thought this is far-fetched until I experienced a similar situation to what Christopher Enoch was talking about. Now, when I tried to get rid of some stuff that Father wanted me to get rid of, and I was attacked by a devil, I dove right into those then. And, but yeah, so the books, So that's one. I think the next book that I would list as most impactful was Batya and Angus Wooten's books, Restoring the House of Israel, and then People. I would say Dave McClintock was my first real interface with professional ministry, and I was a youth minister under him. He thinks I've gone totally off the beam. I had him on my Facebook page for a while, and I guess he got upset because I'm talking about history of Christmas or something.
That's what happened to my friends too. I think that happens to everybody that goes into a Torah-centric life.
But I went to see Avi Ben Mordecai. I was floored. It impacted me powerfully, and it provided a workable structure to take Paul's letters through the prism, and his theories I subscribe to, and also Eddie Chumney. I went and seen him in person, and was just, it impacted me in ways I can't even describe. And then Moshe, believe it or not.
He's very
for better or for worse. I mean, it helped me in my walk in many, many ways. And so, those are some sources I could say really made an impact.
How could you not be influenced by Konichowski under his ministry? It's very influential in my life, both ways, positive and negative. Okay, Craig, here's a good one for you. You got a lot going on. How do you manage the time tensions between work, family, life, and the spiritual and physical health? What are your struggles there in balancing those critical areas, if any?
Excuse me, physical health, something that I got a bit of a hold on now. I guess it's been wasn't the same probably 2 years ago. I was having some health opportunities, I guess, for a change, and I made the changes there, and now I don't really struggle with it. It's been longer than a year with the lifestyle that I have now, and I make the family food still, and I don't eat what they eat. So because I don't eat the flours or really any processed, or eat some cooked foods and things like that, but it's primarily raw. So but that was quite a struggle, and quite a struggle in the family, with me being the only one that changed, and doing a lot of the cooking and things like that. It was stressful, and I can it was a big test on my wife and I, and the kids and everybody. It was tough, but a year into it, and I'm not so much of a terrorist about it anymore either. So that was a big part of it too. And yep. And
Yes,
then
I was going to ask you how long you've been into this kind of dietary
the
health.
diet about a year, real serious. So juicing on and off for about 3 maybe, but vegan and raw for about a year. And as far as getting things done when I can get them done, and then just not worrying about the things that I can't control is a big part of it. You can get a lot more done when you're not worried about things that you can't control and that you have no influence over. I don't know addresses, but plenty of scripture that comes to mind about not worrying about tomorrow, and about if I can have my faith right and my faith in Elohim right, then everything else is provided, and I'll do exactly what I have to do when I have to do it, and not beating myself up. Keeping a clear mental self picture is really big for me, and that's been a new thing as well. I had most of my life, and up until about 2 years ago, I had a real negative self talk going on in my head. So that helps me get things done, and just not really sweating when things don't go my way.
That's
and
got to
just
be
realize-
turned around. Everybody's got to turn that around. The
Yeah,
negativity.
that's a big thing. The negativity, the self-talk was huge. I think I said it one of Thursday or Friday night, I think, or
Mhm.
it got to a point where I think I'd seen a meme on Facebook, and it was like, what would you do if you heard somebody talking to your kids the way you talk to yourself in your head? And it made me cry. Like it really was,
That's
it was
excellent.
quite eye-opening, and the whole forgiveness thing too. You really have to, but it can get negative real quick if I get caught up in getting behind something or not thinking I'm getting something done on time, or anything like that. It can get hectic and get built up, and I become overwhelmed, and then there's that whole process to overcome too. So if I can get things done when I have to get them done and not get to the point where things are overwhelming for me too, that's a big help too.
Very good. Let me ask you a tough question. What problems have you experienced in previous assemblies? How did you address them?
Well, I guess the biggest problems that I've experienced in previous assemblies is my own problems, and they're the only problems that I could address, I think, anyways. Really, so we were at Beth Shalom, which is Rabbi Stephen Bergson's home congregation here, for just about 5 years. This will be our 5th year in Tennessee, so it was pretty close to 5 years, if not 5 years, and we moved here to be part of that congregation. So with all the trials that we went through, there, and really stayed probably quite a bit longer than maybe we were welcome, was more that we wanted to make sure that we weren't running away from our own problems, and really, because I heard the old saying, I guess, growing up, you can't run away from your own stinky butt. So certainly problems, and high school dramas. I'm really not a big fan of the high school stuff. Didn't play the games in high school, but it's probably going to be a lot of the clickiness, and so, and like with my diet, I'm an odd kind of person
Oddball.
now, I guess. So
Mhm.
it's they go out to eat, and they'd say things like, well, you go out to eat, because they kind of segregate between men and women sitting together, and I don't want to go out with my wife and not sit next to my wife,
Yeah.
or be segregated from her at all. And that, I guess, hurt some of the men's feel. I don't know what it did, but it wasn't how they do things. So it's like, I don't want to play games or things like that. So but I think the main issues were certainly ego, thinking that there was big servitude to do, or public service, or something that was going to be recognized publicly, and maybe neglecting a little bit of the things that I really had to take care of within my family and within myself. And so managing my ego, and my need to be accepted, or anything like that, and just worrying about what I can control and have an effect on, which is not very much. So that's fortunate for myself.
Well, I've been told that the only thing that a person can really control is themselves. And that's probably the hardest thing to control. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Kenneth. Here's one for you. What are your personal spiritual disciplines? How do you hold yourself accountable? Might take a minute to think about that.
Yeah. I'm pretty hard on myself in some ways. I try, to start the day with prayer. If I miss prayer, I don't know if it's the Spirit or myself reminding me, but I try to then stop and pray, or sometimes even catch up on it in the evening, if that makes sense.
Does prayer seem living to you, or is that kind of like well, I'd hate to say it, but kind of a dead practice that you just simply feel you have to do because of the discipline?
No, I don't feel I have to, but I mean, and I pray like off the top of my head, but I do like our master's prayer. I started recently on the sevenfold millennium prayer. Those really help. And when I go through those, sometimes I do them line for line. Sometimes, depending on how I feel or situations, I'll elaborate, just take a line and then pray whatever it may be in my personal life going on or for other people.
Very good. Thank you. Do you want another one or not?
Well, just to add on something as far as a discipline, and it's spiritual and in my personal life, one of my very best friends said a line to me back when I was in my late 20s, and it really changed my life. And it was simple, but he said, you know, Kenneth, you can't control people, places, or things. And as crazy as that may sound, that has been with me from the day he said it till even right now. And I
Very
stop
good
and think
advice.
about that. Yeah, I stop and think about that a lot.
Great advice. Okay, we got one more here. I think Marcelle, we don't leave her out of the second round.
And it's okay.
No. You just say pass. These are pretty easy questions. Of course, we don't want to lay bare our worst sins now, do we?
No.
What do you see is the function of worship? Or we might say, what is worship from our point of view? And how do you see that function best achieved? You got probably the hardest question.
I think that worship is what we get, what we do, what we give. I think people sometimes think of worship as, you know, verbalizing thanks and praise and singing, and certainly that's a practice that I have, but I think that functionally worshiping is when I follow after Yahweh's ways and honor him. I don't want to be just like the prayer. I don't want to be someone who honors him by saying I have a belief and I speak about it, but I want to worship him with how I live, what I think, what I say, what I do, how I treat people.
Mhm.
Because I mean, that's just what I see in the scriptures. You know, he says that, you know, your words are one thing, but your actions are far from me. And I don't think that it, you know, to just to sing and to worship and to proclaim love for the Father, but not living it out by how I treat other people and how where my priority is as far as, you know, like you asked about your daily practice. You know, prayer's not, I don't know. I hear people say it's a duty or it's a struggle, or, I mean, I can't imagine not having prayer. And I think that people sometimes see it as just asking for things, but it's not. It's how we communicate to our Heavenly Father, is through his son Yeshua and through the spirit of prayer. That's just, I guess I haven't always been this way, but certainly in the last decade or so, it's just been deliberate times of prayer, but also just conversation throughout the day and the night, you know?
Conversation. That's good. Well, I got a piggyback question on that if you'd like to try it. How would you critique our worship style, worship planning, order of service? Are they effective? Are acts of worship and liturgy effective? How would you critique what we do?
Well, after being at this for many years, and at this, I just mean walking with the master and being in different types of worship settings, you know, I think it depends on the person. I have friends that are very devout and committed to the master, but they shun any kind of formal readings. And I feel almost completely the opposite. I've done because, and it's been through experience, through practice, that if I pick up even, you know, the daily office or the common book of prayer, or just start reading the Psalms, that it may begin sort of as rote or just reading. And if I just continue on, it's almost like warming up. I mean, for lack of a better way to explain it, is I start reading, start praying, and it's like there's always that time that I feel like, okay, now the Spirit is moving. And sometimes it's through writing or journaling too. So I think, to bring it back to our services, if people will truly enter in, and it's very difficult to know in a digital setting, but if they will truly read the bold print and you know, begin with an attitude of prayer. And this isn't just something I'm going to sit here and listen and sort of be an audience member that's watching a show, but if they view it as being a participant and understand that it is a sacred time, we are keeping a holy convocation before the King of Heaven, then I think it's really powerful. I mean, are we gonna, I know Rico Cortez has said, you know, I saw him at Revive this past summer, and, you know, what are we gonna do when we literally stand before our King? You know, are we gonna be like, oh, hey, how you doing? And it's been so great. or do we have a way to approach a king? I mean, we have ways that we approach, you know, heads of state, and you see people that bow to the Queen of England and curtsy and all this sort of thing. Well, I don't know, how are we going to enter into, I don't know, when we see the master face to face. And I think that in our liturgy and our worship, that we're practicing that. And I don't think it's just something new. I think we're bringing back the old ways of, you know, what our ancestors did. They didn't just like, and I'm all about freedom of worship. I mean, like I even told you, I love that I can dance and, you know, all around my kitchen and all of that sort of thing. But at the same time, our ancestors in the first century and even before that, they came together in community, and they had a ritual way to gather in community and to worship. And I think that the idea of individual worship is a modern thing.
Oh, definitely. I think too, it has to do with a person's personality style as well. I like liturgical worship. Of course I do. You know, I write liturgy and I write these various services, and that's good for me. But I was also in the charismatic movement for many years. And despite the fact that I affirm that way of worshiping, a more free way of worshiping, I'm not always comfortable with that, because I'm just not an emotive type of person. So I think that maybe this next Shabbat, let's spend a little time at the beginning talking about worship and why we have chosen to do what we do. And maybe as we consider putting a second worship service on, maybe we can get some ideas for changes that would be helpful for some people, say, that are less interested in using liturgy as acts of worship. Maybe we can find something that they would enjoy too. Churches today, I've heard several times when I have visited churches in the past where the minister will say something like, just sit back and enjoy the service. But that's one of the reasons we have the word liturgy in the first place. It means the working, ergi, of the laity, the people, the working of the people. And it's not just an enjoyment factor. I mean, we have worshiping to do. So let's talk about that this coming Sabbath. I think I'll probably remember that. You might want to remind me at the beginning. So our time's up, and I thank you so much for coming tonight. This has been very helpful, hopefully to you. It's been very helpful for me. And I'd like to do another session like this maybe next week with some other topics here, because we are getting to know each other better, and that's an important New Testament word, koinonia, fellowship. Many thanks, and I'll see you next time. Let's see what's going on Tuesday. We're going to do a whirlwind apocrypha study with all the words that Yahshua said outside the Bible. We're going to look at some of those from a book I wrote back 30 years ago. And it has everyone I could find at the time. I don't think there's been ever really any since then that's been found. Even one found on a bridge in India. You could think about it. Be passers-by. Good night, brother, sister.
Hey, Jackson, I looked on Team Up just now. Is that the one that's at 10 p.m.?
Yeah. It's again, we can make it earlier.
Or something like that. Cannabinoids or whatever you got on there.
Oh, I've got to change that. I was going to do cannabinoids.
I'd be interested in talking about that too.
A lot of people are using cannabinoids these days, a lot of believers. It's kind of turned around where people are seeing the health benefits of this. And so I wanted to talk a little about that, but maybe we'll just do both of them.
Yeah, the Apocrypha sounds better to me.
All right, we'll do that. Save the cannabinoids for later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening. Thank you.